Good morning, everyone. The Concord Township Board of Trustees July 3rd, 2019 meeting is now called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're missing our firefighter today. Is that Chief?
She just pulled in. If you can give us a
Sure.
minutes.
Okay.
Roll
We'll do
call.
roll call. I'll
Mr.
get that.
Dondorfer?
Present.
Mrs. Luda?
Here.
Mr. Melchewski?
Present. Okay, approval of the June 19th, 2019 regular trustee minutes.
Make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. As we're waiting for our firefighter, how about the fiscal officer's report?
Oh, she's here.
Nope, we have a firefighter.
Oh, we'll give her some time
Okay.
to settle in.
Okay, well, I'd be happy to do my report then. As of June 30th, we were 50% of the way through the calendar year. The treasury balance for the 20 funds within the township treasury is $5.3 million. Treasury balance includes approximately $1.3 million in funds set aside for specific projects. Year-to-date expenditures as of June 30th were 37% of the amount appropriated for 2019. The revenue received year-to-date is 54%, so we are well within budget. I'd like to remind our residents that every check we write is listed in the meeting minutes found on our website at www.concordtwp.com. We've been listing bills paid this way in our minutes for our residents since the early 1900s. More recently, we joined www.checkbook.com, and the details of all of the checks written since 2013 are available. The link is located under the fiscal office page in our website, or you may access it directly by going directly to the website. If you have any additional financial questions, please do not hesitate to call our office at 440-354-7516. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's swear in our part-time firefighter. Mark, come on up. Raise your right hands. Now, who's taking pictures? All right, come on over here. Make sure you get your picture taken. All right, please repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Mark Walker,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
and defend the Constitution
and defend the Constitution
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
and against all enemies,
and against all enemies,
both foreign and domestic.
both foreign and domestic,
That I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as a firefighter
as a firefighter
of the Concord Township
of the Concord Township
Fire Department
Fire Department
under the appointment of the department
under the appointment of the department
according to the laws of Ohio,
according to the laws of Ohio,
County of Lake,
County of Lake,
Township of Concord,
Township of
to
Concord,
the best of my abilities and skills.
to the best of my abilities and skills.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Okay, Mrs. Luda, anything to report?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Dondorfer?
I have a couple things. I had the opportunity since the last meeting to meet with some residents personally, and over the phone I spoke with one regarding a stormwater issue that we seem to have resolved over on 608. Most of the discussion that I had either personally at a meeting or over the phone was in regards to the fire station project, which I know we're going to have further discussion with today. I did speak with several residents who understand and realize that the stations need to be replaced. The big discussion was on the cost of that project, how it will be funded, and what the exposure will be to the taxpayers. So I had several discussions. I appreciate people reaching out from the last meeting. We're always available, so don't hesitate to contact me either on the phone or a couple residents I met out for coffee, and I'd be happy to discuss it further with you. And I know that you're going to be touching base on a lot of that today, so that's all I have.
Sure. I as well. I want to thank everybody for being here. The township certainly appreciates input for residents. You know, as we sit here as a pluralistic society where we have all kinds of different ideas and different ways of life that we've come through, you know, not only this country, but the state and Concord Township. The township trustees, government officials, you know, we're supposed to turn these ideas to work for the general public. And I couldn't think of a better day than July 3rd or the day before July 4th as a reminder of our duties. And as residents, certainly it's your duty to ask questions, stop in here, see us. I would generally tell most that it is probably most of these things that we talk about that are top topic issues, generally I'd better to have discussions in person or over the phone, not necessarily always in these township meetings, only for the simple fact is because they're long discussions, there's a lot of questions and answers. And as a duty of the legislative body and our executive function, as Concord Township trustees, we're required to kind of collect those thoughts and ideas and package them to the voter in the best interest of Concord Township. I again extend to everybody that on the website, and if you go to our websites or our apps or our Twitter account or our Facebook, there's all those ways to kind of get informed and to reach out to us. Our cell phone numbers are published as well. My cell phone number is 440-487-3812. My email address, both my Concord Township one and my office one, are listed. I spent my Saturday and Sunday talking to several residents on the phone. Each conversation probably took about an hour. Some were a little bit less. I think I really enjoy kind of discussing these things. I think it's a good idea of exchanging ideas, gaining an understanding, making sure that somebody is digesting the information that we've given. And I think it's also important to kind of lay out some of the, you know, the work that was done beforehand. What happens is during a discussion is I don't want anybody to ever feel that we're dismissing some of their thoughts. However, sometimes, you know, we've already thought of those ideas, went through whatever study that we had to go through, and modified our argument or our I guess our decision on which way to go. And so that's somewhat helpful. For the last several years, we've had some issues with our fire stations. They are very humble in nature. They were constructed in the early 60s. They were made for volunteer fire departments, which meant that, you know, generally these people would, you know, the firefighters would have radios at their homes, and they would come into the station to pick up a vehicle, or they would meet the vehicle with their own vehicles out at a site. Times have changed, and we still see times are changing significantly. In fact, we're making more EMS runs than we've ever made. We're probably in need of 2 additional EMS trucks or vans so that we can you know, make those runs more efficiently. And we're making probably 7, 8 an evening. They do take some time, and you know, you generally would need another one to kind of run a backup. And so those are some of the considerations initially of what we've done. Now, earlier on, some time ago, we formed a JED, and that JED, it was somewhat controversial when we started it. It has become a very lucrative tool to the township for some of the township needs. And so that JED produces approximately $750,000 a year to Concord Township. And we use those dollars and cents to pay for roads. We've used those dollars and cents to, you know, supplement other items in lieu of going to the Concord resident and asking for their increase in their property taxes. And so at the time of discussing fire stations, and it's always been in discussing new fire stations, we've always talked about using JED dollars and how we would use those to fund those. And there's a various different ways that we can use those, and the reason for that. Additionally, we started, and I think Mr. Rose could go into better detail of it, but in 2004, so prior to I being a trustee here, the comprehensive plan discussed our fire stations, discussed the need for maybe an additional fire station, certainly discussed the need for revamping and rebuilding the fire stations that we do have. In 2009, we asked for a grant. It was a one-time ability to ask for a grant for construction of fire stations. We were denied that grant, mainly because there was only 5 given out. Concord Township is an affluent community, and so we didn't make any of the qualifications for the dollars and cents, and those went elsewhere. Knowing that, we kind of, prior to 2009 and after 2009, with our former fire chief, we would go from town to town, looking at fire stations that were recently built. I would take a picture of them, I'd send it to the chief. We would make a public records request, and we would gather plans on these fire stations. And we've had several discussions about how we want our fire station to kind of play out. It was always a discussion between the former chief and I that you want to build this fire stations from the inside out. And the reason why you want to build them from the inside out is that they have to have significant functionality to our firefighters. And the reason why we want significant functionality to our firefighters is because we need them to be able to gather their gear and exit that fire station as quick as possible, because it's always about response time. So the necessariness for how a fire station operates is the need for us to get to a resident or an accident as quick as possible. And we have had, and we do have, several buildings that we keep our equipment in because they can't all fit inside our firehouse. And additionally, because our buildings are built back in the 60s and they weren't for individuals that were going to sleep overnight, or at least attempt to sleep overnight, they weren't very functional. They didn't move around the building very well. And then, as time goes on and as studies go on, you start to realize that there's a safety to our firefighters. Obviously, as studies go on with regards to cancer, our firefighters have been exposed to those ailments, and we have to be sensitive to making sure that we put some safety features in there. And we would retrofit our fire stations. And so every single time that we'd have our fire chief would present us with a safety feature that it was going to be added to these existing stations, the question that has always been asked by at least this trustee and this board was, can we take this with us when we rebuilt? And we were very sensitive to making sure that we weren't buying something that we would have to repurchase again. And the answers have always been, yes, we can go ahead and take this with us if we build a new fire station. In 2014, I participated in the Lake County Fire Feasibility Study. And I participated with all the fire chiefs in Lake County. They were all there, and then the only lay persons that were there were Mayor Anderson and myself. We had legal counsel, which was Jim Lyons, who represents several municipalities and villages. And we went through an extensive study about really how do the fire departments work together. And part of that is as you hear our fire chief give a report, he'll have discussions and he'll say, well, here's how many here's how many responding items we went to. Here are when we covered for other townships or other municipalities, and here's when they covered for us. And the reason for that is because the fire departments work very well together. They have mutual aid, and that mutual aid has, the way we work together has saves the township money in getting a third fire station, saves the township money in some of our personnel, and it makes not only Concord Township's community better, but it makes those other communities better. And part of that 2014 feasibility study was to see how things are working, to determine whether or not levies are appropriate, determine whether or not we would do better if we had a countywide fire department, determine whether or not if we didn't have a countywide fire department, would it be better to do it regional, maybe in thirds. And ultimately, the decision is that our fire departments play so well together and work so well together that there was no need to change how we had things set up. And there's some exhibits of that and illustrations of that, because Concord Township has purchased and worked with Painesville the city of Painesville in a ladder truck. Now, it may not be the best scenario all the time, but generally ladder trucks cost how much, Chief?
1.2, 1.3 million.
So we were able to buy a used one for about less than $100,000. We were able to store it at the city of Painesville. City of Painesville, pursuant to our agreement, will drive that ladder truck out with their own man or men to deliver those things to us. And those are things that you as residents should want us to do to make sure that we're always kind of keeping our costs, cost conscious, under the radar, attempt to do things that benefit the township as a whole, benefit the residents as a whole, but at the same time, we're doing it in a fiscally sound way. In 2015, we went through, and one of those things that we did was we put together a continuous levy for safety forces. And I know there's been some discussion about continuous levies. There is some difference between continuous levies. There are certainly differences of opinion. There's another resident that both he and I think will gently discuss and disagree about, but there is a continuous levy for safety forces. That's both our sheriff's contract and our fire department. That was done in 2015. It was a 4.0 mil continuous levy, and in reality, because we have so many residents continue to move into Concord Township, and because our property values increase, and because we've had development, and we average about, and I use this term all the time, but about $57 million a year that in increased property values that occur in Concord Township. And what that means is that as we have more businesses and residents move in, your 4.0 continuous levy in today's dollars is really a 3.5, which means that Concord Township in 2015, when they passed that and they started collecting it in 2016, collects the exact same amount no matter what. So as new residents come in, they start to share your percentage of, or your last year's percentage of what you paid pursuant to that levy. And the reason why I think that at least I find some reasonableness with that is because we know the dollar amount is, we know that dollar amount will continue to go lower and lower as residents move into the township, but it also provides us additional tools. And those additional tools is that if we're going to go out for a loan, we're able to now pair that we have a JED, we have some continuous levies that allow us to borrow money. And that is one of the features for that. Additionally, those continuous levies pay for basic operations. So those dollars and cents don't accumulate in a bank account. They go to pay for firefighters and police officers and additional part-time firefighters and full-time firefighters. So they're truly operational. Each dollar that's coming into the township will go out to pay for our personnel. And we've tweaked personnels over the years as well, so I think this is also important. We used to have a significant amount of part-time firefighters that are called by the revised code as volunteer firefighters, but they're, as much as they're called by as volunteer firefighters, they're not free. They're part-time, probably better termed as part-time, but the revised code has not changed them. We've mixed full-time firefighters with part-time firefighters because it was a very cost savings to us. As time has gone on, there are less and less part-time firefighters. Less and less people go into that occupation. Because less and less go into the occupation, it's harder to get to the part-time firefighters because full-timers are being hired pretty regularly. Now, what that does, and as Amy kind of talks about, and you can see this in our checkbooks, it created a problem that we were having additional overtime for our full-time guys. And as much as we like to have our guys work full-time and overtime because they're great, they provide us a great service, it costs us dollars and cents. And so what we did is we made a change, and we've added an additional 3 additional firefighters that were hired earlier this year. And before we did that, we went through back and forth over a significant amount of strategic planning meetings, which means that we're probably doing it for a 2 or 3 year period of time of making sure that we were right on that calculation, that we could save dollars and cents by hiring additional full-time firefighters. And where we're going to save that is on the ledger here, more expensive for full-time firefighters. Over here, we're going to save on the use of part-time firefighters and save on the overtime use. So we went through that process. And the ability to go through that continuous levy and having the guarantee of those dollars allows us to do that. In 2015, we've also went through the process of hiring our new fire chief. And we don't hire fire chiefs very often, so we took a lot of time doing that. And part of that process was talking about revamping or placing new fire stations in Concord Township. And so as we went through that, and as soon as we hired our new chief, we had another study done by fire chiefs that took place through 2016, 2017. And the topic of that study was looking at our facilities, looking at our fire stations, evaluating those fire stations, looking at where those fire stations are placed with regards to response times, the additional need for a 3rd fire station, and the population where that 3rd fire station may be. And we got the results of that. And as we got the results of that, it became a determination by this board that we were not in need of a 3rd fire station at this time. And part of the reason why that occurs is because we had that 2014 study of how well our fire departments play well together. Besides playing well together in Lake County, we play well together with the ones in Chardon and Hamden and Leroy. And so we had coverage for that area that is a growing area, but not necessarily a need for a 3rd fire station. So then we looked at our facilities themselves, and our chief spent his time going to all kinds of conferences on fire chiefs and facilities, and looking at fire stations, architects, reviewing these plans, and really kind of getting into the weeds of how they function, how internally do they move around inside that fire station, and how that benefits the general public, how that benefits our response times. And our chief also has always been, when he was just a basic, he and I met in here earlier on where we started talking earlier about Concord Township's protocol. And this is way back in probably 2006, 2007, about how we run our protocol. Concord Township's protocol. And that's, I apologize because the chief may cringe in his seat because I may be mispronouncing or stating exactly how it works. But technically, we were arriving on the scene with education from our doctors that educate our firefighters, and we're arriving on our scene providing state-of-the-art care to the resident by hooking them up to the computer, and that doctor being able to tell us, okay, administer this medicine, administer this medicine. And the idea is that we were going to start treatment. We're not just going to pick individuals up and bring them to the hospital, but we're going to start treatment immediately. And in 6 and 7, that was unheard of, and we started to do that type of work. And as time goes on, these fire stations need to be upgraded with that type of technology or additional technology so that we can continue to do things. In the next 60 years, I foresee fire departments acting much more creatively than they are doing now. I wouldn't be shocked if we see that we actually have physician's assistants, and you may be sent home with a device or certain bandages on, and that you would call upon your local fire department to come in and have them take that off instead of going in to see the doctors or to check on you because of your wound. As healthcare gets more and more expensive, everybody's looking to do things differently and innovative, and generally that is trying to be less expensive and having additional people, so to speak, do that work for them. So we spent some time doing that. In 2017, we've had this building filled with residents here as we had, discussions about other topics, but a lot of individuals would be talking about, well, what about the fire stations? The fire stations need to be upgraded. And we had those discussions with, what we were doing, and we went through this process. So recently, when an email came out, and I'm glad that everybody's here because I assume that's because their email, an email was circulated throughout the township. But I don't find that the email that went out probably discussed a lot of those types of things that I've went through already. So we came to the determination that we were going to build fire stations. The next thing was how to finance them and what that was going to involve. And as we had economic development created throughout the township, our next step was how do we have that economic development and these tools that we've instituted work for us. And these were all thoughts as we laid these items out. So as the corridor built in Auburn, Cryle area, we started to TIF properties, and those are called tax increment financing. And we were able to take and capture some of the economic development that was taking place in those tax dollars and able to put them into the renovations of the roads over there. Additionally, you're allowed to take those dollars, and those are not a lot of dollars, but those are some dollars, and that's what we're supposed to be doing, is creating a basket of some dollars to pay for these fire stations. And so those created an additional tool. In 2018, we became a limited home rule township. The purpose of becoming a limited home rule township was so that we had additional tools in our toolbox. And so when we're talking about funding for fire stations, the package of that funding is going to have to be JED dollars and TIF dollars, and the use of our ability to have it, that we have an existing continuous levy for operations so that we can go ahead and get a loan or additionally a bond. Now, the topic has been asserted that there was some consideration that we were going to do a continuous levy to pay for these fire stations, and it was raised because everything has to be raised, everything has to be considered. The other thing is that what the township has the ability to, on a general basis, is we have the ability to go ahead and issue a 5-year levy or a continuous levy. It wasn't a 10-year levy or a 15-year levy, and obviously every 5 years you have to renew that. And if we would try to pay for a large item like a fire station and put a 5-year levy out, that would be what I would consider an excessive millage, and that would enrage me. It should enrage you. It didn't seem like a logical decision. The continuous levy would allow you to have a lower millage, and it would have it for a longer period of time, and the ability to, that's why you would have a lower millage, and you would have the ability to go ahead and pay for that fire station. And I understand the biggest controversy of that is that, well, eventually you'd pay for that fire station, and then you'd start having this basket of funds. And there's a couple reasons that is a problem. Townships can't have basket of funds. If the township collects dollars and cents, they should be putting those dollars and cents into township facilities, into manpower, into your roads, because if you're gonna start building a savings account, well, then you're collecting too much money, and you better reduce your levy amounts. And that's because we're a creature of the Ohio Revised Code section. That's our duty. That makes logical sense it should make logical sense to everybody. And there's a test on that, because Amy, who has to go through audits every year, has to deal with the auditors, and they have to look over our dollars and cents, our POs, the checks that go out, and make sure that we're being true to the residents of Concord Township. So the purpose of at least having some discussion of the continuous levy was that is one way to pay for the fire stations. It does have some flaws in it, and are you able to avoid those flaws? And last meeting, and I hope somebody watched that last meeting, but you can go back, and we've had some discussion about that last meeting about what we were going to do. And we actually passed 5 pieces of legislation at the last meeting. The first one was see what you can do about bonds, and let's engage a bond council for whether or not we can do a bond levy. Now, I will tell you that wasn't the first time we talked about bond levies. Back in just after Thanksgiving of last year, but before Christmas, I had conversations with a local resident here, an attorney friend of mine who is bond counsel, and he's an individual that I've worked with on several other townships on doing bonds. And we had a breakfast with them. We had some discussion with him. We then went out and talked to. What is the title of, I don't want to call her the banker, but the financer?
BFM, it's the financial advisor for bonds counsel.
So we had some discussion with him with regards to financial advisor, and we started to have some preliminary discussions with them. And I think that's appropriate to do first, because you want to kind of get as comfortable as possible before you hire somebody. And so the first decision we made last week was to engage those individuals into in putting us together a package for a bond levy. Additionally, we also sent to the auditor's office, hypothetically, we needed to get some knowledge, and so we had to send, if we're going to put a continuous levy up, we need to see what value it needs to be and how much that would cost each resident. So we need to get the numbers. We need to get some official numbers instead of just guesstimates. So we sent to them a 0.9, a 1.0, and a 1.1 to see what those numbers were. The last piece of legislation, the 5th piece, was probably the most important one, would be how do you get rid of a continuous levy if we had to put one up there? So if for some reason the bond levy did not work out, if everybody agrees that a high amount of five-year levy was not very prudent, how do you get rid of a continuous levy? And we engaged our legal counsel here to have some discussion. And the reason for that is because this board would not sit here when that fire station is going to be paid off. And so how do you force a board that wasn't in existence at the time to do the work that a former board told them that they needed to do? And so that, that had to be researched as well. And the idea of that is that we're hoping that in mid-July or towards the end of July, we produce a package to the township, that's township residents, to say, here's what we're gonna do, and here's how we're gonna pay for it. And then if that makes it to the ballot, the question then becomes whether or not you're gonna vote for it. But we have to do all our due diligence, and so it's very important, and I'm glad that everybody's here, to kind of gather some input on those things. I thought it was important to go through, I guess, my statements today, only so that it provides a little bit of reflection and a little bit of knowledge, so that nobody thinks that we just kind of flippantly decide to do something and we haven't taken some forethought and some process in doing what we've done. The other thing is that I don't, and please, it's my intent, I don't want to be dismissive of individual ideas as well, because there may be something that we haven't thought of. But we have done a lot of homework. We have really knocked down a lot of doors, and then all of a sudden, somebody finds out that we were thinking of this or that, and they start looking down those corridors, and I have no problem doing that. I just don't want anybody to think or be offended to say, well, yes, I did look down that. I'm not dismissing your good idea, but here's what I found out when I went down that area. I think it's important to do those things, and it's also important not just to do them once, but do them a couple different times. So at one point, we're going to have an audience portion. I'm going to try to limit people to 4 minutes. I think the better way to do it is not to necessarily be a question and answer session, but maybe to have everybody voice their 2 cents in. And for the longer discussions, I'll be more than happy to stay after, or I'll give you my phone number and we can meet in my office, or we can talk on the phone. But I think what we'll do is we'll probably then just address questions at the end, and I think that's probably a better way to go about doing that. So with that, I will move to our administrative report.
Thank you, Mr. Malczewski. Members of the board, Mrs. Dawson, members of the audience, good morning. On today's agenda is Resolution 2019 Tax 16. This is a resolution to certify an amount to the auditor's office. This resolution does not, I repeat, does not place anything on the ballot. It is strictly to get the auditor's office to certify an amount. This resolution is for a 28-year bond levy. It is not continuous. It is not continuous. It is set at $10 million. We anticipate the millage will shake out to be about 0.9. That's what we think. This will cover the cost of Station 1. Station 2, which will be constructed after Station 1, will be financed utilizing JED and TIF dollars, and no additional property taxes will be requested. We, the fiscal officer, the fire department, and myself in the administration, we've crunched the numbers till we're about blue in the face. We've evaluated options in order to reduce the costs. We feel we have a solid financing plan. Again, I just remind everybody, this is not a continuous levy. We will also utilize TIF and JED funds that are available to supplement the debt service on the bond in order to pay the principal down at a faster rate. So the 28 years may end up being 27, 26, it just, you know, pay it down as quick as we can. We've done that before. We've shown history with that. We paid off a SIB loan over 10 years early. So we're good about knocking down our debt. Hats off to the fire department, chief, deputy chief, and their folks. They did a top-to-bottom scrub of the initial fire station plans that everybody saw. They used to be online. They worked with the architect in order to reduce overall costs, and we have a new solid footprint that we feel is operationally sound. Some of you that were here for office hours have seen the plans. I have the plans here. I'm happy to show them to anybody after the meeting. We continue to field comments. We continue to meet with residents, discuss our fire station project. We welcome the opportunity to meet with anyone who has questions, comments, concerns. I've shared tons of information. I fulfilled a 3,200-page public records request regarding fire stations not that long ago. I'll share everything I have. We are completely open about this. I again encourage anyone who wants to know the facts behind the fire project to contact myself, the trustees, or the fire chief and deputy chief. Okay? That's enough about the fire station for now. On Friday, July 12th, the Mentor Public Library will be celebrating their 200th anniversary. There is a celebration party on the main branch lawn from 6 to 7 p.m. that evening. We congratulate the library on their 200th anniversary, and we wish them continued success, and we thank them for serving our residents. Finally, Town Hall will be closed this Thursday and Friday in observance of Independence Day. We wish everyone a safe and enjoyable 4th of July holiday, and we wish America a happy 243rd birthday. That concludes my report, sir.
Fire Chief.
Morning, everyone. First, before I give my report, I want to thank the board for its due diligence in the fire station conversations, and certainly the community for your interest and participation in the discussion. I feel good about what we're doing, and pretty happy with the product that's come out. So I appreciate everyone's input. For the June of 2019, we had a total of 207 events. Year to date, we're at 1,274, pretty close to in line with last year so far. In June, we had 141 EMS events with 115 transports. We had 8 fire events, including 1 structure fire inside Concord. The homeowners of that residence are displaced right now, but we've been working with them to get some resources and help them through that. We had 6 building fires outside of Concord and also 1 vehicle fire outside of Concord that we assisted with. We gave mutual aid to our neighbors 23 times, and we received mutual aid 13 times. Our Fire Prevention Bureau's been busy as ever with 5 plan reviews, 61 annual inspections, 4 fire protection system testing, 3 fire detection testing, 1 public fireworks display, and 3 consultations. And so they're staying on track with what they need to do. We're down 1 inspector right now. We hope to have that vacancy filled here in a couple months. Our public educator was out he did 1 installation of a residential lockbox, and he ended up removing 2. Sometimes residents move out and those lockboxes get returned back to us so we can recycle them. And we also had 3 public events. Just reminder, just join us on August 11th if you're interested at 11 o'clock for Concord Fire Department's annual Safety Day and Open House right here on the Town Hall campus in the parking lot. We'll have a lot to do and give people a chance to check out the equipment and meet the firefighters. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Service Department.
Mr. Carrasco.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Frank.
I'll try not to rush, so as not to be in a firehouse rush. No pun intended. We are pleased to report, as we enter the holiday weekend, that Trimore Construction has completed all road replacement on Jason and Christian Avenues except for the cul-de-sac, which will be hand poured next week along with driveway aprons. Residents will now be able to park in front of their homes for the holiday weekend. Even though the contractor faced adverse weather and utility conflicts, they have remarkably remained ahead of schedule in completing this much needed work so far. The residents of this area need to be commended for their wherewithal throughout this construction activity. Meanwhile, our township crews have completed replacing almost 900 square yards of concrete on Andrea, College Park, Stone Hollow, and Yellowwood. This crew will return to Andrea Drive for further improvements the week of July 15th after they complete bioretention improvements on Ashley Court, Arbor Glen, and Concord Point. A second crew has been crack sealing roads this month at various locations, and that will continue through the month of July. All we seem to hear this year is about how much rain we have received, and subsequently, that has led to a large number of roadside ditching requests. We have completed numerous requests in June and are currently scheduling well into July to meet the residents' needs. At this time, we would like to remind Concord residents that we now allow for them to drop off yard waste on weekdays at the service department, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. until 4 p.m. for such materials such as grass clippings, leaves, garden debris, and small twigs. This is not intended for contractors, and no brush will be accepted at the site on weekdays. Further, we also have wood chips available to the residents, first come, first served, during the same time period at our facility. In closing, we extend to our residents a reminder that if you have any questions regarding services provided by our department or have observations that you may want to report to our department, you can find contact numbers and other related information underneath the Service Department tab at the Concord website, www.concordtwp.com, or call our office directly at 440-350-3225. Please enjoy the upcoming holiday weekend. Be safe, and do not forget to provide a safe place for your pets if it gets too noisy out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Heather, zoning department, Heather Freeman.
Hi. Okay, during the month of June, the zoning department processed 37 zoning permit applications and collected just over $4,500 in fees. Of those permits, 9 were for decks, 8 accessory buildings, 6 fences, 4 swimming pools, 3 new dwellings, 3 change of uses, 1 accessory structure, 1 commercial alteration, and 2 sign permits. We're halfway through the year, and in total, we've processed 157 zoning permit applications, which is slightly down from last year, where we were at 188. Next week, the Board of Zoning Appeals will meet on Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. The detailed agenda may be found on the township website, concordtwp.com, and click on public meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, rec department.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Deb.
Your Concord Township Recreation Department extends a warm invitation to our residents and guests to enjoy the energizing classes and events we've planned to enhance your summer. Classes offered in July include Pound on Monday evenings, using weighted drumsticks to rock out to high energy tunes. Strengthen your core at Yoga Pilates Fusion on Wednesday evenings, and strengthen your everything at martial arts on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Check out our Life Skills for Teens classes, where students learn how to budget, interview, communicate effectively, as well as basic life skills like how to change a tire and cook a meal. Unleash your creative energy and learn how to create beautiful art in our stained glass class. Or better understand Medicare by taking an introductory class at the community center. Classes are held at the community center, and seats are still available for all classes. Sign up at concordtwp.com and click on the recreation registration link, or just call us for assistance. This afternoon at the Concord Community Center at about noon, our 55-plus group will enjoy a summertime picnic complete with live music from the band Flashbacks. Our next 55-plus group gathering will be on Monday evening, July 15th, with Susan Canavino as she presents the life and times of Princess Diana. And this is part one of a two-part series, and the second part is in August. Then on July 17th, Ken Kursalovic, the author of a book entitled League Park, will talk about the history of the home of Cleveland baseball. And on July 20th, all are invited for a free guided tour of Concord Township's Old Stone School, which serves as Concord's museum and repository of historical artifacts. Grab your besties and grab your lawn chair and head out to our free summer concert series on Thursday evenings at the Gazebo at Town Hall. On Thursday, July 11th, the Pop-Tarts perform favorites from 60s girl groups, including hits from the Chiffons, the Shangri-Las, the Shirelles, and the Marvelettes. On July 18th, Abbey Rodeo is back with your favorite tunes from the era of the British invasion. And on July 25th, the Chardon Polka Band will polka your socks off. So buy dinner and dessert from Nick's Gyros and the East Coast Custard, and peruse beautiful handcrafted jewelry from a few local vendors. We want to shout out to our generous sponsors, NOPEC, Cometic Gasket, and CT Consultants. Without them, the music wouldn't happen. And of course, this year, the Recreation Department is teaming up with the Fire Department to bring residents and guests an entire weekend of family fun. Celebrate Concord Township on Saturday, August 10th at Concord Community Day. This year's festivities include the annual 5K run, the Fire Department's pancake breakfast, the beloved frog jump contest, Kids World with giant inflatables, toy trains, a live animal show, and over 20 other games and activities for kids. But wait, there's more. Due to much needed road repairs, the parade has been replaced with a high-energy kickoff event at noon, followed by a full day of live music and food trucks. The beer trailer is back with 10 different taps, and Uncorked will feature a lovely selection of local wine. Peruse the new car and truck show this year at the Old Stone School, and then peruse the big, beautiful gift baskets at our legendary Chinese raffle. Enjoy the classic rock of Pieces of Eight featuring the Lakeside Brass, and then let the rhythmic sounds of the islands wash away your cares with the Ray-Ban Steel Drum Band. Then dance the night away with the Juju Bees as they play everybody's favorites, right up until the fantastic fireworks display to complete the celebration. And then the next day, on Sunday, August 11th, join the Fire Department, as Chief said, as they host Safety Day. You can tour Station 1, check out a ladder truck, safety trailers, and the Big Creek K-9 Rescue, all while enjoying a free lunch. Check out the complete schedule of events at concordtwp.com. For more information on any of the events or classes, visit us at the Community Center. Come and talk to us, go on the website, or call the Recreation Department directly at 440-639-4650. And lastly, on behalf of the Recreation Department staff and Mr. Andy Rose's patriotic socks, we wish everyone a very safe and happy 4th of July. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
Chief Liam Bruno from the Lake County Sheriff's Department.
Good morning. In June 2019, we had 1,354 calls for service in Concord from the Sheriff's Office. We handled 1 injury accidents and 6 property damage accidents. We responded to 58 alarms for residents in Concord Township. We also did 174 business checks where deputies stopped and visited Concord Township business owners during their businesses, assisted with security checks, and visited with residents. We did 129 crime prevention stops where deputies located open doors, lights on inside the vehicles. During nighttime hours, we went to construction sites and visited with contractors. We've been continuing to monitor traffic in the township. In June, we issued 35 citations and 161 warnings. We found 6 drivers driving under suspension and 1 driver driving while intoxicated. We responded to 13 domestic disputes in Concord, handled 13 drug complaints, 7 mental health issues with some of the residents, 5 neighbor disputes, 2 sex offenses, 1 shoplifting, We had 73 suspicious circumstances called in that we responded to, 7 thefts, 1 threat, 42 traffic complaints. We had 46 times we did targeted traffic enforcement in Concord, and we had 15 welfare checks in Concord for the month of June.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Have a good Fourth.
Okay, we now come to the audience portion. I guess it's easier, we'll just pick this side, we'll go row by row. And if you would, just please come up, tell us your name, and make your comments. Address would be helpful. So, first, anybody in that second row right there?
My name's Merle Hanna. I live at 6969 North Meadow. My interest today is your continuous levy. You already have one on the books. 1% goes to the sheriff. And the other 3% already goes to the fire department. My problem is I've lived here for 31 years. My taxes keep going up and up and up. I understand you guys pay taxes. Everyone in this room pays taxes. I think we have to re-look at that. I don't have a problem with the fire department adding the buildings, put a levy on. The only thing I'm afraid of is the continuous levy is more money coming out of the taxpayers. And I think, and I know you guys have done a super job, but we have to find some other avenue, if it's a 5 levy or whatever. You guys are wanting to do this fire department and the one on Prouty. I understand that they were built in what, 1966?
Early 60s.
Okay. After 60 years, we say we need new fire departments, buildings. Maybe we need to back the cart up and say, let's get one done and get the other. And I understand you guys need all the facilities and everything. I think there's some other avenues you guys can go down. And I think you hear it from the residents. I just think we need some more input with the residents.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next, anybody in that row? Anybody in the row behind them?
So which row do you want? This row?
That row's fine, anybody.
Okay.
Anybody can come up. I'm trying to do it in an orderly.
Good morning, I'm Tom Hack. I live at 11575 Fay Road. And I really want to echo, you know, the reason you have so many people here today is because we all are feeling the pinch of taxes. And I'm venturing to guess that many of the people in the audience today as well are retired. We know for a fact from demographic studies that we're going to have even more people who are in 65 or older category, more of them on fixed income. We've got to figure out another way. I mean, we have to, and these people are here not because they want to move from Concord, but because they want to stay. So we need to figure out another way to accomplish the goals of modernizing our fire department without going for new taxes. And I know that I appreciate you've taken time to look at maybe sharpening the pencil and trying to figure out ways to reduce the costs. But I think that, boy, there's got to be other things to be done. And the gentleman who spoke last, and he put up a point that I would agree with, is that we don't need to do everything all at once. We have the means to do things one at a time. And I really think that addressing Fire Station 2, paying for that, and then moving forward with addressing Fire Station 1 would be a more prudent way to go, stretch our tax dollars, and allow the best of all situations for everyone. Ultimately, a completely modernized fire department saves some of the burden for the members here, the citizens here in Concord, and ultimately we get what we want. I mean, we really are on a situation, on a plane where everybody agrees, and I've not heard anybody say that we don't need new fire stations. It's a matter of what we need to do. One other thing I would point out, I have over time done a fair amount of research on taxes and levies and things like that, and I did secure a document, kind of a cheat sheet, if you will, from the Ohio Department of Taxation. I know it's been stated many times that the only options are, really three options: a 5-year levy, a continuous levy, or bond. But in this cheat sheet, which I'm happy to leave here, it says under Ohio Revised Code, non-school levies, 5705.19, it says for any number of years not exceeding 10. It says for any combination of the following purposes: the acquisition, construction, improvement, or maintenance of buildings, equipment, and supplies for police, firefighting, or emergency medical services, the construction, reconstruction, resurfacing, or repair of streets, roads, and bridges, or for the general infrastructure projects. This division applies only to a township or a municipal corporation. So I would say that this needs to be investigated further, but it would appear that you have another option to consider from a financing perspective. I do think, I go back to an earlier thing I said, that I really think we need to do this out of existing funds and extend the time frame in which we modernize. But indeed, I would suggest looking into this further, because there seems to be another option. And Mr. Rose, I'm going to leave this with you.
Thanks, sir.
You're welcome. And I appreciate your time, and have a good 4th of July. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else on this side that would like to speak? Okay, how about the first row here? Anybody else? All right, second row, third row.
Good morning. Denise Brewster, 7207 Alexander Road. I just want to quickly ask, but that you address it. I'm not sure what you mean by on the agenda B, and then is C, you said 28 years, and what's the percent? Do we know?
The conservative estimate right now that we're using is 4.1. Because we don't know what the bond market's going to look like. I see some shuddering faces out there like somebody's sucking on a lemon, but that's a conservative estimate that was given to us by the bond counsel and the financial advisors. I anticipate that if we actually went for a bond market on today's market, it would be 3.6. But I don't know what that's going to look like in December, January timeframe, so we're using a conservative estimate. If that bond comes in less, then the millage goes down, because it's a bond levy. It's not a, the millage follows the actual cost of the bond.
Okay.
So that would, if we used a planning figure of 4.1 on the financial advisor's recommendation, it is a conservative, by conservative, I mean at the high end. If it comes in lower, then the millage would be lower.
Okay. All right, because just because of previous discussion, we looked at, what 3% being very low over 29 years, which was originally, just preliminarily discussed. And in calculating that, that was a cost of $5 million. So we would be funding as residents $10 million and paying $5 million in 29 years. So we'd be paying $15 million, which is the same price tag as Beechwood, that has the same architect. I know that the chief has met with me. He's met with the architect. I did not get to see this plan until I came here today. I will tell you that the parking lots are taking up a tremendous amount of space. Just glancing at this, and I'm going to study it further after this meeting. The parking lot, that is where the U-shaped section is where the building jets out with two wings, that parking lot could be after the building, or after the demolition of the current station, could be down there, because that would be wasted space. It could push this whole footprint that way towards 608. I'm trying to save a ball field that there's a tremendous amount of money in, and also have sufficient planning or parking for people that come. And so I think that's one solution. Where we're coming up with the driveway, again, a parking lot is pushing that into a ball field. There's other ways to look at this, and but my biggest concern here is you have two wings, very expensive footprint, to build walls and have a center space, because I know this from schools that do it. You have open space, and so you have all this extra wall space, but yet if it was connected or turned, you would be saving a lot of money. And it also would save on the space, because you could still push that towards 608 if you got rid of that parking. Those are the kind of ideas that I think it's valuable for not just me, but anybody who would like to sit down and really look at this plan, which I understand you just got back, correct? So I was out of town, I drove in this morning, and I'm leaving again tonight.
I was going to ask the chair to make a comment. I know we're waiting to the end, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands. We got these at 8:35 last night.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I just want the opportunity going forward, that there could be valuable items.
We've never denied anybody an opportunity to look at these. And for the fact that Chief and I looked at these from 9 o'clock till midnight last night on our own personal computers and texting back and forth, is it a perfect plan? No, it'll be tweaked. But we got these last night,
right? And
at the risk of scrutinizing, we decided to put these out for everybody to see right away.
I understand.
So it's unfair to cut on us.
No, I'm not saying, that wasn't my point. The
With
point
all due
is,
respect.
Yeah,
I think
these are our second set. So, we had the first version, we sent back, driveways, parking lots, all those things are going to be, we will reconsider those types of items, I think, significantly. And the reason for that is because, we have some expertise. I mean, Frank's guys build roads and driveways and parking lots or basically those items on a daily basis. So we're very sensitive to kind of how those things are going to be done. Additionally, you talk about, basket of funding or loans. Let's be clear that this is going to be a bond levy. It's going to probably only pay for a portion of the Station 1. Station 2 is going to be paid with what I consider alternative funding, JED dollars, TIF dollars, stormwater dollars. Stormwater is going to weigh in. So when stormwater gets over here and we ask for stormwater funds, they're going to make those parking lots differently. They're going to put water features in. So I foresee those happening, maybe not today or tomorrow, but by the time those are placed on this property, they're not going to look as if they do on those plans. I know how much a square foot of 10 inches of cement that's going to be required for these fire trucks to be on there. So we're sensitive to those things. So we will.
Okay. All right, and, initially when we talked, I asked about seeing the plans, but you said that would be the trustees' decision. That's the only reason why I brought it up, okay? I think there's a big difference between what we want and what we need. And, when, just on my way here, I had time to call Mentor. And I just want to know, they're building a brand-new emergency operations center. That's something that will serve the county. Again, the mutual aid and sharing resources. I asked them the ticket, the cost, $3 million, they're funding it. I know they have many more resources than we have, okay? But they have outlying stations, and most of their stations were built in the 1990s, anywhere in that thing. Sometimes they've had to add on something or modify something, because no matter what the crystal ball looks like, you're never going to cover everything that you're going to need 30 years from now. But you also don't want to spend everything you have to create something that I feel is way overpriced. I think 10 million is not even the going rate for any community around that they are spending for an outlying station like Prouty Road would be maximum 4 million, maximum. It's a smaller station. We expect that this station would be a bigger station because it's the main station. But the fact is that, we're not talking hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars. We're talking millions of dollars. And you can get, when you look at, let's say, and I talked to Paul for over an hour on Saturday, when you look at Madison fire station on 528, beautiful station. Someone called me and said, have you ever seen that station? Yes, I went there and I looked at that station. I took a tour. Chief said they had a really nice training room. And then he said there was a crack on the back wall. And they do have a retention pond in the back, which may happen with Prouty Road because of the amount of water on the land. But the fact is that I think their project was $4.5 million. And that was commissioned, like in operation 2013. Even if you add another million, 2 million, but 10 million, it's a lot. And that's what we're looking at, because you're looking at $2 million, tell me if I'm wrong, projected for the architect alone, which should be that is half the cost of Fire Station 2. That is a lot of money to spend. And I know from building houses and additions, there are architects where you could spend a fortune, and there are architects that are very creative and they do a great job. And I've never had a problem using Ohio architects and staying within a budget. So those are my thoughts on that. As far as spending the amount of money associated on top of this bond issue, that is problematic. And, I guess when you add it all up, if we're $5 million, which I didn't see a revised plan for Prouty, but, there were cost savings that could have been done there. Did we get one?
No, we haven't. We're concentrating on Station 1.
Okay. But, like I see the portico on this, on the front of the station. I know it's a design feature, but the fact is, it's more important to have some kind of covered portico that goes from the town hall to the fire station down the road. I don't see anything like that in this plan. So, just a thought. And then initially, I remember the administration building was going to be on top. We cut that. It was 6,000 square feet, and that cut 2.2 million off the 13 million initial cost. So basically, we've saved by sending it back to the architect 800,000. It isn't enough.
Well, it cut 3 million off.
Well, we are not building the administration building there.
Right.
Instead, we're staying here, which is a great decision, and then considering adding on to this. But as far as the fire station per se, it's still a $10 million fire station,
Right.
and it's a lot. So I just wanted to be able to, say those few words, and I'm willing to live with. People are going to be all over the place whether they would, want a levy, want the township to pay for the whole thing. Even if there was a small, levy in a shorter amount of time, like Tom said, 10 years, what does that look like? We don't have those figures yet because that information just became available. But I'm a person who is all about getting the most out of your money. That's why I'm driving one of my cars that has 154,000 miles. It's paid for, And my brother, who's a mechanic, doesn't want to see that car. But the fact is, I don't believe in wasting money, and I want to, you know, make sure we're getting the best value.
Okay, anybody else in Mrs. Brewster's row? All right, how about the row behind? Anybody else? Anybody else in the last row? Anybody? Oh, you go ahead. Okay, sure.
Paul Castro, 11323 South Forest. Got that right? We just moved in. Okay, so you say JED, and I think Clamper. And the other anachronism is TIF. Can you just take a minute to explain these quickly?
Yeah,
Sorry to burden you with that.
No, so the JED is a Joint Economic Development District. That district resides in the hospital area that produces an income tax. Townships don't have the ability to have income tax. You don't pay an income tax if you live in Concord Township. Several years ago when the hospital came here,
Live and work.
yeah. So several years ago when the hospital came here, we teamed up with the city of Painesville and created an area where whoever works in that district will pay us an income tax that is less than Painesville's income tax, but less than the $0 that we get. And so when I consider that as alternative funding that the township gets, and it started off as $100,000, and then $300,000, and then $400,000. Now it's about $750,000 that the township receives from that district over there, and it paid for the infrastructure over there and those changes. And the idea was that it was going to assist us in paying for fire stations and firefighters and fire stations. So the idea of those dollars and cents were to use that for a portion of these stations. At least at this point, it's our idea to use it all for Station 2. So Station 2 will be paid with that. TIF funds are tax increment financing. Those dollars and cents there are certain areas over there in that economic development area that pay a certain property tax, and then when they decide to build, we were able to capture the new increase of that tax and use it for infrastructure costs. That helped pay for the road, and now there are some dollars there that allow us to help pay for these fire stations. So, you know, those are alternative ways of not increasing your property taxes that allow us to go and use to pay for infrastructure projects here. And so that's what the JED and that's what the TIF fund does.
Thank you.
You also pay stormwater fees. You see, each year you pay, as a resident, you pay $30. County, as a business owner, pays much more. But when we talked about those fees, we try to make sure that we know the dollar amount that is collected in Concord Township, and we try to make sure that those stormwater projects take place in Concord, so we get dollar for dollar what we're paying for. We have several stormwater issues on over by Station 2, which really is collecting all the water over there in Brightwood that's not running into Brightwood Lake and coming off 84 Old Johnny Cake. So the idea is that we're going to do a stormwater project over there that should cut down our dollars and cents that we would have to spend on the fire stations, and that will also save us some dollars and cents. They will also probably come over here, stormwater, and say, well, you're going to have to reduce your asphalt, you're going to reduce your concrete, they're going to give us some creative ways so that we don't spend extra dollars on Station 1 for those water features. Then we'll probably have a stormwater feature additionally here. So those are the reasons, you know, those are the things that, you know, in reality, those are your tax dollars, but they're for your benefit to come to you to reduce property values or reduce property taxes. And we will use all of those that's what, you know, that's what allows us to pay for Station 2 without bonding that or without going for an additional levy amount on that.
Mr. Malczewski, I'd also like to remind you that the TIF funds are only good for 10 years.
Yes.
So that it's not an unlimited supply of money. Once we TIF a property, we only receive income for 10 years.
All right, we started TIFing in 11, I think we went through 15, I think is the last time we TIFed something. I can check.
Oh, I see you over here.
No, it's okay.
I just have a quick question. I live at 6435 Tulip Way, and I just have a question about Mr. Malczewski, what you have stated about the bond issue, and there was a .9 mils from the auditor's office that suggested that for repayment. What kind of money does that generate in a $200,000 house for taxes?
Yeah, our administrator will answer that then.
1 mil is $35, so .9 would be $31.50 per 100,000. So a $200,000 house would be $63.
Here.
Yes, ma'am.
Or per man?
Per year. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. Vanessa Pesic, 11705 Kelly Court. I first want to say that I think that our Concord firefighters definitely need new accommodations. I've had to use the fire station folks over the years, and they do a terrific job. And I really do think, especially with station number 2, it is shameful that we've allowed their building to be in the shape that it's in, and that we haven't rebuilt the stations to house that. So with that said, I fully support affordable fire stations, but I do think that the plans, even though you went back to the architects and they reduced by about $800,000 the plans. They took away the admin building and then took away about $800,000 from, a $11 million project to about 10. I think they are very expensive still. They don't need to be this expensive. The folks weren't given a budget up front, and so it's no wonder that the plans are very, very extravagant. No other community has such expensive facilities in Lake County or in Cuyahoga County, other than Beechwood, which is a very rich community. But it's maybe not a coincidence that theirs and our plans are so expensive, because it's the same architect. This Chicago architect, they're charging $2 million based on the plans or the documentation that I received from the township, Phase 1 and Phase 2, of approximately $2 million through the ending of the construction. It's at $2 million, and this is on top of the $15 million that's currently projected for construction. And this seems to be, rather expensive. We really can't afford this. If you're asking us to increase our taxes, then I think there needs to be some additional tightening of the belt in order for us to proceed. We can stop them at this point through the contracts. Your legal counsel was very eagle-eyed in this and made sure that you can stop the architectural firm at any point and still retain the plans as is. And so this could be done. You will have spent about $500,000, but at least you won't have spent the additional $1.5 million. And you can look for additional ways to save money. I heard that it looks like you plan to put a $10 million bond on the ballot in November. We're not quite 28 years and 0.9 million for 4% or whatever, but it is very expensive and it will significantly increase the cost of these facilities. But to me, this is a perfect example of the problems that we continue to see in Concord. At the strategic plan meeting in January 25th of this year, several residents, we watched with shock that the $18 to $20 million fire stations were going to be built, and that you were going to put a $10 million continuous levy on the ballot, and you were going to pay the other $10 million with a loan using the JED and the TIF funds.
Hold on. I gotta stop you because we had a presentation regarding that. That was not the intent of the trustees at that strategic planning meeting. And I tell all the residents, we have strategic planning meetings approximately every 6 months, sometimes longer, depending on what the process is. There was a period of time where I think our administrator presented us a presentation which was informational only. So I don't think that was a decision made by the trustees because I don't think the trustees took any vote on that.
That would be correct.
Okay.
Here's one of the slides. It says funding, debt service on financing options using average interest rate of 3%, the annual debt, and so forth and so on. So that you can use, so this stated that the Concord could afford to finance $10 million of the project utilizing JED and TIF dollars. Now we've come up with a price tag of only $15 million for 2 stations. And instead, and now you're only going to finance $5 million using a loan with JED and TIF, and you are still going to ask the town, the residents, for a tax increase for the $10 million, utilizing a bond instead of the continuous levy. The JED is to be used for fire, safety, and things like that. So I would recommend that you at least not increase our taxes by using $10 million for the loan for the JED, which is what was one of the financing options back in January, and decrease the amount that you would go to the taxpayers for. So first, I would address fire station number 2. Find a way to decrease costs in around the $4 million range and take out a loan in order to begin. Second, I would stop using the expensive architectural firm. I would set up an independent committee to review the plans for fire station number 1. You need to look at have independent, fresh eyes looking at this project in order to find ways to significantly decrease the costs for this plan. And then to get this to be around a $6 million project. And then third, I would look for additional funding sources that would help take additional burden, financial burden from the township. I don't believe that building both fire stations should increase our taxes, and I do believe that we should make sure that we allow firefighters to have affordable and new fire stations. Do you have any questions for me?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Hi, Walter Belinsky. Could you come to the lectern, sir? I'm sorry. Otherwise, TV land won't hear you.
Okay.
Walter Belinsky, 7960 Augusta. I just feel that the architectural fees that I've heard talk about, the 2 million, are extremely excessive. Were other consulting firms quoting on this, or?
Yes. Yeah, so we went through a whole process in hiring architectural firms. So we had several individuals in, several presentations, probably a 6-month process before we picked this one.
And they were all in that same price range?
All in the same price range.
Wow.
We, you know, the other ones, you know, some of the considerations are who their subcontractors were as well. And so that's how LeMay Erickson eventually was chosen. They were local guys.
It just seems like a lot of money when
It
you
sure
hear
does
$2
seem like a
million.
lot of money. Yeah. Go ahead.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know the source document that's being referenced that talks about $2 million.
Yeah.
But that source document talks about the architectural services for the design and all the construction documents to design the building. That's actually like between $600,000 and $700,000. The rest of that money that makes up the $2 million, a lot of that is wrapped up in the construction management of the project once the plans are approved. We have gone back and questioned those, and I believe those were included in the 3,100 and some odd page public records request that I fulfilled. So I think, with all due respect, there's some cherry picking going on. I will pull those source documents. I will have them available for anybody that would like to review them. I will have them in my office within an hour after the meeting. But I think a lot of that has to do with construction management and the project management and oversight of the project, reviewing change orders and all those types of things. We have gone back and called some of those charges into question and asked for clarification on why they're so much. We have not received an answer. I will pull those source documents. I will have them available on my desk as soon as, within an hour after the meeting's over, for anybody who wants to look at them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There was another, and someone else that wanted to ask a question? Was there another hand up? I'm sorry, over here. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I knew you had blue on.
I have just a few concerns. My name's Debbie Hanna, and I live at 6969 North Meadow, which is right down the street
Yes.
from number 2.
Yes.
How are you going to handle, or has it even been addressed, the storm water?
That we are going to address it.
So that hasn't come up yet.
Well, it's come up as it's part of the plan.
But no solution has been.
Well, there's the solution.
We're concerned because our backyards are a swamp.
We're gonna collect that. That is part of the discussion we're having with regards to stormwater. We're gonna divert our stormwater funds over to that area. My guess is the solution's gonna be a dry pond. It's gonna be fairly large to collect those.
Where would it go?
Well, it's gonna have to go with the natural flow, so we'll have to collect in there, so it doesn't collect in your backyard.
On what property?
It's on the township property.
So on that corner?
On that corner.
Where you purchased the 2 houses?
Yes.
You're gonna have to
And the fire
take down
station.
the White House?
The White House is coming down. The fire station's gonna be probably kind of a little bit behind that White House.
Okay.
And a little bit in front there. There'll be a retention basin in the rear. So
Where the yellow house was?
Where the yellow house was, and where right now we have a little sign that says Luigi Pond.
Okay.
Because we suffer the same stormwater issues over there. And so it's the idea is that it will collect there. It will have to then go across the street where that's the natural flow, and then down through over towards Rolling Acres. So it goes down David and Bryant, and that's where the water currently flows now.
Right.
But we need a storage area so it doesn't collect in your backyards. Where it was planned on collecting it at the fire station.
When is that I'm sorry, I wasn't at your planning meeting, we were out of town, so I didn't know what was going on that corner.
Yeah.
Now I know you're taking down the white building also.
Yeah.
And then that's gonna stay that way for how many years if you're gonna build number one first?
Well, once number one is done, we'll start at number two. So whenever we're done with number one, we'll start at number two, at least our current plan. Our fire department will be going door to door and talking with residents about your concerns on stormwater and the concerns about the site, and we'll make whatever accommodations that are necessary to make, with the knowledge that we're gonna construct another station there. You know, the ins and outs, what we're gonna do temporarily, as we do that, we're still working through that process, but, you know, there are solutions out there. Our stormwater department has been out there several times.
So it's my understanding that you've paid $357,000 just for those two houses.
Over time, yes.
Over time.
We bought the first one, I think, in
2006.
2006, and then we purchased the yellow one, yes.
Do you guys pay property taxes on that?
We do not pay property taxes on that. But-
we do
well,
currently.
we do temporarily until we
Yes.
make it
Because
township
it's a year
property.
later.
Yeah, until it's township property.
Okay.
But you don't pay property taxes on it because it's your property as well. Meaning it's
But
Concord
you're not-
Township's property.
You're not collecting anything?
No,
That you were collecting?
that's correct.
Now you have to pay to have those houses torn down.
We were able to get grants to do that
50%.
through the land bank.
And then you have to pay for the stormwater?
The stormwater is gonna be part of this project. We're gonna use stormwater funds, and those are.
That we're currently paying?
That you're currently paying, and that's the stormwater project. It's a problem that existed before, so
I
now
know.
it's an opportunity for us to correct it without invading others' property. Which is the
Okay.
problem downstream there, is that there's a lot of stormwater projects that we'd like to do further down there.
I know.
To let that flow, and we're not allowed on their properties to do that.
Well, thank you.
Okay. All right, and I guess directly to your husband, Mr. Han, this is not our plan to do a continuous levy. So, you know, it is our attempt to do a bond levy, for Station 1 only. It's our attempt to, take the basket of funding options and a loan and not go to the public for, Station 2. Additionally, and, you know, it's also our attempt to try to get this at a 0.7 mil. I don't think we're gonna be able to do that by some Ohio Revised Code standards for bond levies, but it's my attempt to get this at 0.70, and the reason for that is because the debt service that was used to, and what you are paying now to pay for Morley Library's building will come off next year, which is 0.7. So currently, Concord Township, being just using over by Station 2, that's in the Riverside, the portion that's in the Riverside School District over there by Station 2, currently pays 11.7 mils in our property taxes, and to Concord Township. We additionally pay 0.7 mil on the bond levy to Morley Library. That will fall off at the same time that the proposal for this bond levy goes on. And so it's possible that it increases by a 0.2, and it's our intent not to allow that to happen, but the problem we're gonna run into is the Ohio Revised Code and what they're gonna make us do on what that millage is. That being said, after Station 2 is built, in all likelihood, that would allow us to refinance the bond and reduce that dollar amount. that's the one comment. The other additional comment is that the documents and the numbers that we're using are estimates that come from the architect and their subcontractors that are working with them, and meaning civil engineers that go along with that, and engineers. That being said, ultimately what happens is the matter goes out for bid. So the process is to have an estimate, to confirm the amount of dollars and cents, to confirm how we're going to finance it, to go to the general public, have them weigh in with their vote, but then ultimately the matter is bid out, and we will have, my guess is we'll probably have at least 6 to 7 bidders, maybe up to 20 bidders on it, and the lowest and best bid wins. And at that time, we will also be, that's the time that we're going to start talking about, who has a better idea of the driveway access, or who has a better idea of some of the pavements that are there. I asked that everybody go and take a look at the footprints and see, look at the rooms and what's the plan is to have them in there. Station 2 or Station 1 is larger than Station 2, and so the increased cost of that, I think that Station 2's cost will go lower and lower as we continue to crunch numbers, and as that gets sent out eventually for a bid. My concern about Station 2 is that may not go up for bid for a while, and costs only get higher. But one of the ideas of the bond levy and the millage amount and what we can get was the knowledge of the Lake County Library District's bond levy, which is known as Morley Library, coming off next year as well. So very sensitive to the fact of what your dollars and cents are, and what is on the rent rolls. So that's the same concern I had with regards to the original continuous levy for safety forces, that those dollars and cents are going to stay stagnant over years. That will only cost you less and less dollars and cents, because as more people move into the township, as economic development continues to grow, there are more individuals paying on that standard figure that comes across. So I understand there's controversy about that, but I always think that that was the thought pattern in that, and it allows us to go ahead and get a loan because there's dollars and cents coming in. So
I believe, Ms. Brewster? Denise? Did you have a question about number B on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
go ahead.
May I address that? Okay. So her question was, we have appoint Carolyn N. Luda as fiscal officer pro tempore effective July 1st. One of the trustees in January every year is selected to be a fiscal officer pro tempore, and that is in case of emergency. If I can't fulfill my duties, for instance, I have a parent with medical issues, I'm going to be out of the country for a week this year, they can sign on my behalf, but then they can't sign as a trustee. We lost our fiscal officer pro tempore on April 1st this year when Mr. Galloway became auditor. So we haven't had one in place. I didn't think it was a big deal. I revisited that because I will be out of the country this fall for a short period of time. So that's all that is. It's housekeeping and it's temporary.
Because I can't ask about it after you vote on it.
Right, absolutely, and we would have explained that as well, but that's what happened. Thank you.
And Amy doesn't want me here that often because I talk too much. All right, new business, June financial reports. Motion on June financial reports.
I move we approve the June financial reports.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, entertain a motion to appoint Caroline Luta as fiscal officer pro tem effective July 1st to December 31st of 2019, so that she could fulfill the role while Ms. Dawson is out of town from time to time.
I'm not going to move.
I will second.
No, you have to-
Oh, I have to make a motion.
Yeah, you move.
I'm sorry, move to approve.
I will second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Resolution 2019-16, declaring the necessity of submitting to the electors of the township the question of the issuance of bonds in the aggregate principal amount of $10 million pursuant to Section 133.18 of the Ohio Revised Code. Again, this does not place anything on the levy. What this does is this sends it to the auditor's office. The auditor's office will crunch some numbers and then will return it back to us. And then that gives us more information so that we're able to answer Ms. Fishkorn's question to the exact degree, because we will actually have a document from the auditor's office on that.
I move to approve Resolution 2019-16.
I will second that motion.
Ask for a roll call.
Mr. Dondorfer?
Yes.
Mrs. Luda?
Yes.
And Mr. Melchesky?
Yes. Vote for Fire Department approval of promotion of Kevin Bruning to part-time firefighter effective July 2nd, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Service Department PO to Bobcat Government Sales in the amount of $56,724.67 for a Bobcat compact track loader.
So moved.
Second.
All right, this is a loader that our service department will use in reconstruction of the roads. They have one now. They're using that as a jackhammer. This one will be used to haul what just has been removed. All in favor?
Aye.
Items approved at at our staff meeting was the approval and to advertise an assistant fiscal officer. So we're looking for a part-time. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, what we're doing is we're looking for a part-time individual who can cover payroll functions, who can cover some of the things that I do. It took me 4 years to learn this position, and we've talked about it for a great deal of time. I think now is the time to get somebody in, particularly with more of an accounting background. I have a banking background, CPA, someone who wants to work part-time. It's a very limited hours in the beginning, and that's what we're looking at doing, seeing if there's anybody out there who has an interest in that.
Additionally, we moved from a $3,000 department head. So we're up to spend $3,000. We moved that limit to the administrator by $5,000 because there was a recent change in the ORC. Now that still requires the trustees to sign off on all those POs. So the oversight is there. Prior to us voting on that, we've confirmed that, and we went through the procedure. So all three of our trustees will sign off on those POs. You guys may or may not know, every PO, every check, we do not do anything electronically. Every check is signed by, it's initialed by the administrator, signed by the fiscal officer, and signed by all three trustees. So we're making sure that we know every dollar that leaves here, and then obviously that's posted on our website and on our checkbook. Additionally, we have tomorrow is July 4th, in observance of July 4th and Independence Day. We will be closed both on the 4th and the 5th. On Wednesday, July 10th at 7 p.m. we'll have the BZA meeting at Town Hall. On July 11th at 7 p.m. we will have the summer concert series in the gazebo. The Pop-Tarts, July 11th, right? Right. On Friday, July 12th at 8 a.m. we will have our JED meeting at Town Hall. That consists of members of the public. That consists of members on behalf of Concord Township, businesses in that area, as well as the city of Painesville. So that's what takes place at the JED meeting. On Wednesday, July 17th at 5:30 will be the bicentennial planning meeting at the community center. We will be having our bicentennial soon. So we're getting ready for that. At 6:30, the trustees' office hours, which is in the conference room. And at 7:30, the trustees' meeting will be in Town Hall. I remind anybody, I will be more than happy to have any other further discussions with anybody else today Tomorrow, call me on my cell phone number is 440-487-3812. I'll be more than happy to meet with you. We'll make an appointment or come up to Town Hall. So with that, everybody have a great 4th of July. Thank everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We do appreciate you coming. During the dead of winter, nobody ever shows up, so thank you.
We appreciate your input.
Yeah, that's it. All right.